Alright guys, so we're going to jump back at it. So hopefully what I'm going to try to do tonight is get through primarily the library itself. So that being said, I think now I had planned, I've got to talk to Tom to make sure that we can undo this. But I would also like to be able to work, to have you guys working with a version of Capture One and a camera at the same time. So we may be moving, so I thought we were going to do next week here in this room as well, but it's looking more and more like we're going to move that back to the studio. But I will figure all the logistics of that out and I'll let you guys know. Okay, so back in Capture One really quickly, I just wanted to show you one other thing about it. And that's again back at the top of the browser window, the one that's all the way to the right-hand side. You'll see next to that little drop-down of the eyeball that we were talking about, there's a set of double-headed arrows. If you click on those arrows, you can actually see that it is a way to sort the thumbnails. Oh, sorry. Thanks. Okay, sorry about that. So right up here, at the very top of the browser screen, the browser pane, whatever, there's a up arrow and a down arrow right next to one another. Those actually indicate how the images are sorted right now. So right now they're sorted, and again, I just grabbed a bunch of images from the stuff that you guys turned in, and because you turned them in by your last name first and then all that kind of stuff, whatever, they're basically alphabetized. Just so that you know, there's a whole range of ways that you can sort stuff in here. We are actually going to look at a more in-depth version of sorting in just a little while, but nonetheless, they exist right here. You can reverse these. So if you click on the reverse button, what that will actually do is it flips the order. So these are now still done by name, but they are in reverse order. And the way they signify that is there's a little check mark next to the reverse, and then you'll see there's this little dash. And what that little dash is telling you is that this is the reverse order of the naming, which was alphabetical. Sometimes you will run into problems with this, especially if you haven't been really vigilant about your naming when you're actually either importing or shooting tethered capture, and stuff will get out of order if it is only sorted alphabetically. So to fix that problem, the easiest fix on it is to actually do a sort by date. Now again, this would assume that this was being an import or a tethered capture. Now in this case, all this is telling me is that Jen was actually one of the first people, or this image of her was one of the first ones that was actually shot. If I knew that everything that was in this folder needed to be in one solid order, as in the order that it was actually shot by time, I would select this date and then I would simply rename all of these files according to whatever I was going to rename them. That would be how I would deal with this whole problem. But right now, what I really wanted you guys to know is just that this part exists up here. So I'm going to go back to sort by name, just to keep it, again, basically the way the whole thing started. However, you should know this as well. It doesn't have to stay that way. I'm going to go back to the icon view where you can actually see multiple thumbnails, just because it's a little bit easier to see. So again, I'm clicking on the little icon part that's right next to this guy. Then I'm going to drag this up to make my column a little bit wider so that you can see. You can actually physically move stuff around in Capture One. So for instance, if I wanted to take this image of Elizabeth down here and simply drag it up and change it right here, I can do that. I can actually put this in any order that I want to. What you'll notice when you click on that double-headed arrow now, if that happens, is that it actually changes your sorting down here to what they call manual. So you don't have to pick this in order to actually be able to do that. You simply actually start dragging it around, and you'll see that it'll again, that things will actually move in that order. Again, if we go back to sort by name, again, it will take and put everything back the way it was before. So I just wanted you to know that you can move those guys around. Okay. On the other side, up here at the very top, on this thing that was actually called the tool tabs, a lot of people feel like the tool tab bar can be too confusing, and they actually prefer to have it simplified. A lot of people work that way. So you can actually change the tool tabs up here, and you can actually change the tools that exist within a tab. So to see what that part actually means, if you come up over here to the top, we're going to click on the library. Most people keep the library on this tool tab all the time because you use it when you're setting up sessions, you use it when you're moving and organizing stuff around, and you use it when you're either importing or shooting tethered. So you're pretty much using it always. So most people will actually keep this guy around all the time. If you click the next one over, this is actually, again, where most of your camera connections are set up, and so most people will keep this one as well. The next one over, this one will actually give you white balance. A lot of the stuff that's actually happening in here, though, is redundant. And the reason I'm saying that is redundant is there's a series of tools that sit right up here at the top that mimic a lot of what's actually down in here. So for instance, the white balance tool that sits right here is in large measure this same white balance color picker right here. Not only that, but if you go back to the camera and actually look down on the camera itself, there's also, if we had a camera connected to this, there's a white balance tool that would actually show up right here as well. So white balance exists in a number of different places, so there are times where people feel like, I don't really need this part of my white balance tool right here. In our case right now, we are going to get rid of it. So to get rid of this guy, now, it depends. If you've got a 2-button mouse, or you know how to do 2-button trackpad, you would want to do your 2-button mouse right now. If you did have an actual external mouse like this guy that was actually a 2-button one, you want to do what they call right-clicking. You would click on the right half of this to actually get a drop-down menu. If you have just a regular laptop and you don't know the keyboard shortcut stroke to get a right-sided mouse, it'll always work if you simply hold down the control key. So if you hold down the control key on your computer and click, you will get this drop-down menu. And in the drop-down menu, you have options. You'll see that you can add a tool, that you can remove a tool, you can add a tool tab, you can remove any tool tab, or you can remove the color tab, which is what this guy is actually called. So again, there's a difference between tools. All the tools are the things that live down in here. So base characteristics is a tool, white balance is a tool, color balance is a tool. In our case though, the color tab is the tab we want to remove. So again, holding down the control key or your right-sided, or if you know the gesture to get the drop-down menu, you want to go ahead and remove this color tab. And it'll ask you, it'll give you a warning, are you sure you want to do this? And you're going to say, yep, I want you to go ahead and remove it, and it's gone. The next one up is the exposure tab. I'm going to go ahead and leave that one in place. The next one over there, the next one over here is actually the lens tab. There is lens correction that exists here in Camera Raw. However, in Capture One. However, in most cases, this is something that would be dedicated to processing your files. This isn't really something that plays that critical a role in capturing. If you did, for some reason, they allow you to actually build lens correction profiles that will actually change how your screen looks. If you use those, and we'll talk about how to build these things much later on, but we'll talk and what they are. Most of this stuff in the Adobe world shows up either in Lightroom or in Camera Raw. Again, it wouldn't be something that you would really use while you were shooting, but if you wanted to, you would go ahead and leave this guy in. In our case, though, to simplify our tethered capture, we're going to remove this one as well. So again, up to that menu, hold down the control key, click, and on the drop down here, you can either click on the remove the lens tab, or in the one that's right above it, it'll also give you that option. This allows you to do your editing or remove any or all of these guys. So you could pick the lens one right here, or you can simply do the one at the bottom, which is the one I'm going to do. It's going to say, are you sure you want to remove that tab? And I'm going to say okay. The next one is the crop tool. Again, the crop tool is by and large the same real majority of the use of the crop tool sits right up here at the very top in this tool tab that's at the very top in the middle right here. So again, unless you're actually doing overlay work in this, which we will also talk about later on, we can get rid of this guy as well. So again, I'm going to hold down the control key, drop down menu. We're going to remove the composition tool and go ahead and say okay to that. The next one down is actually the focus tool. This is a way to get around and do certain things. This allows you to do, but this a lot is about this is again in post. It allows you to deal with Moray. How many people in this room do not know what Moray is? Everybody really quickly jump out to any browser, Chrome browser, whatever. do command, just get a new screen up, do Moray, M-O-I-R-E, and say OK to that. And then go to images. These are examples of Moray. It's where you have the typical version, which most people talk about. The screening version of this has to do with if you take two pieces of window screen and you lay them across, the one on top of the other, as you move them around, they will actually generate these patterns, and they look exactly like this stuff. I'm sure you guys have seen this. Everybody's seen this on TV. If you watch the news on TV and there's a newscaster who's got on a striped tie, it'll actually moray like this. The reason that's happening is that the stripes in the tie are lining up with the lines that are actually in the screen of your television. And if those things are relatively close in size to one another, you end up getting this moray pattern. Moray is a huge problem for digital photography because digital sensors are made up of thousands of little lines of sensor lines. So they're little rows of pixels that go across. When those little rows are close in size to fabric or to anything that any subject matter that also has little lines like that, this moray thing ends up happening. The places that you need to look for it especially are in tweeds. Tweeds are notorious for moraying because they have that line in them. If you look at synthetic wear, a lot of synthetic wear, because it is synthetic, because it's not really organic, the weave in it is like incredibly predictable, almost machine predictable. Those lines will actually line up and they will moray as well. To show you what that really looks like in an image, because this is something you need to look out for. Would you say that's a problem? That's actually a real image that I shot for a client. That's not supposed to look like that. That is moray. I'm going to show you a different version of it. This is also shot for a client. This is a version of color moray. You see this pattern right here? That's also a problem. At any rate, all of that can be dealt with on some level in Capture One. And those sliders exist right down here. You'll see right down here. In terms of moray, it's whether you're doing a mount or pattern moray. It's ways to try to combat it. You can also add film grain to stuff, but again, most of this is stuff that's actually being done in post. So for us, we're going to set this up to do just capture right now. So we're going to get rid of this guy as well. Again, holding down the Control key, click, we're going to remove the Details tab. You're going to say OK to that. The next one over is local adjustments. Again, that is all done in post work. So that would be dodging and burning and shifting color and doing all of that kind of stuff, whatever. We can get rid of that tab as well. The next one over is styles and presets. You are not going to use that a lot right now. We will use it later again, but right now we can also get rid of that guy. So I'm going to remove the adjustments tab. The next one over is actually keywording and metadata. We're going to leave that one. The next one over is processing. The next one over is batch processing. And then finally, this is the way we're going to actually leave this part set up here. You can add stuff back. If you want to add something back, hover over in an area over in here where there is no icon. Hold down your Control key and click, and you can add a tool tab. So for instance, let's say that you thought, oh, better about it, and you said, you know, I really do need color back in here. So you could click on color, and it will actually bring it back, and you can actually have it here. So we've just brought that part back. If you want to reorder these icons across the top, you hold down the Command key, I think. Yeah, it is the Command key, and you can move these guys around so that you can actually bring it back. So you can build your own workspaces so that they actually function well for you. Are there questions about this? All right, I need everybody to go to the camera tab really quickly. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Everybody has their own version of how they like to have their screens built and worked out. These are actually called, ultimately, they're going to be called workspaces. In our case, you can build custom workspaces and you can actually save them. I'm going to show you how to do those in just 1 second. And then we'll actually zoom on from there. So for me, just to show you how I would set this up, and again, I'm not telling you how you should be setting yours up. I'm just showing you the way I set it up, but more importantly, it's just to know that you can customize all of this stuff. So again, I want you to do the same exact moves with me so that you see how this stuff actually works. Exposure evaluation, is there any reason to use this? Well, let's click on this first frame. Actually, let's find... There's no frame in any of this. It's actually got a completely white background. So I'm going to click on this frame right here. This is actually indicating that my image is underexposed. Let me see if I can find something else. We'll find something in just a second. Click on this other one right here. No. Anyway, this is an exposure evaluation, and what it's actually showing me, it's telling me how it thinks my exposure is, whether I am actually exposing properly or not. Is there any reason in the world I would pay attention to this if I've got a color card in my shot? None, right? This is just, and it's a guess anyway. If you actually shoot something that's just on a pure white background, this exposure thing will actually blow through the roof. Even though your subject can be perfectly in frame, this will blow out because it's seeing your image as primarily white. So in my opinion, this thing is worthless. I want to get rid of it. To actually get rid of it, you hover over the tool itself, hold down the control key, click, you don't get the drop down menu, so you come over to the little 3 dots that are on the far side of this tool. You click on that and you come down to remove this tool, and exposure evaluation is actually gone. Capture naming, we definitely want to keep, and we will use. Next capture location, we like that part as well. Next capture adjustments, we want to keep that as well. Camera settings, we actually don't care about that unless you are using a very specific phase camera, because what this will actually do is on certain cameras, it will allow you to control everything about the camera. It'll allow you to change all the menu items in a camera, all that kind of stuff. Most of you guys are working either with Nikon, Sonys, or Canons. None of this will work on that. And the Leafs that are in the studio, this doesn't work on that either. This is actually for much higher end, more newer versions of phase camera backs. So we're going to get rid of this guy as well. Again, click on the little 3 dots. We are going to remove this tool. The next one down is your camera. You do care about your camera itself because you do want to be able to control it here. This is lets you set f-stops, apertures, that kind of stuff. It does not let you focus. It does let you use live view. Capture Pilot. Has anybody in this room ever used Capture Pilot? What Capture Pilot will actually do is that you can actually load software on your phone, and you can also load software onto an iPad, and you can actually get not all of the controls, but what you get is a copy of the viewer here with limited control. You have some limited. So in the viewer, in the image that you see on your iPad or your iPhone, you can rate things, you can star rate things, you can actually color tag things, you can do that sort of stuff. It is an unlimited number of people that can actually load this. So what a lot of clients will do, we actually, sit clients in the green room with a whole bunch of liquor surrounding them. They don't even have to be in the studio on the shoot, which is great because it gets them out of my hair. And they can watch the shoot as it goes along, and if they want to comment by rating something or tagging something, they can, and it's just there, and they don't have to be. So, and it can be an unlimited number, so you can have 10 iPhones and 5 iPads and running all of this. So, however, very few people use it. I will show you how to use it, but for our time being, we're going to get rid of it. And to be honest with you, if I was going to use it, I would use it in a different place. So I'm going to get rid of this one as well. Again, clicking on the little 3 dots, we're going to go ahead and remove that tool. That gives us some space down here at the bottom that we can actually add something to, and I do want to add something to this. For me, I care about having a focus check on this screen. It's really vital to me. So to add that in the space that's underneath this, hold down your control key, or again, your right-sided mouse or your whatever your finger. What is the finger gesture to do right side? Is there one for an iPad? Is it 2 fingers? Oh, you're right. Okay, the 2 finger thing. you can add a tool. And the tool that I want to add is focus. And when you do that, what will end up happening is you'll see you get a screen that opens up. This screen is important for two reasons. The first reason is that the thumbnail and the viewer that I'm actually looking at right here are two things have happened here. Number one is they're not at 100%, and number two is they have not been processed out. Processing can actually have an impact on what you see on your screen. So what you end up getting with focus is you actually get the image set to 100%, but this is also a processed out. Now, they're only processing out this little window of it. They're not processing the whole file. It's just this little view of it so that you can actually see what the file would look like if you went ahead and processed it out. Does that sort of make sense to everyone? So that's what's going on here, and it's just an important one to have. You can actually leave this on the entire time, and again, as you're shooting through, you'll see that it'll actually end up changing what's in here. To reset what you're focusing on, you actually use the little pick focus point right down here, and you can actually drop it right on there, and you can see that whoever shot this guy actually used probably a decent lens because this is pretty tack. Make sense to everyone? So this is how I prefer to have my screens. Now you'll notice that when we added focus to this, it shifted. It actually caused a bunch of other things to collapse. What will end up happening is that it's always going to want to show you the tool tab, what's available to you. However, it will truncate stuff. It'll collapse stuff and open up other stuff, whatever, to give you room to actually do what you need to do. So for instance, if we needed to work on capture naming right now and I click on that drop down, you'll see that it collapsed something else. It collapsed my camera settings is what it collapsed. I am still keeping focus out. I can still see that part. You can move stuff around. So for instance, let's say you prefer to have focus up at the very top of your screen. If you go ahead and collapse focus right here, you can simply click on it and you can drag focus up to the very top. So now focus is actually the very top. It's the first of your tools and everybody else is sitting underneath them. So all of this stuff is simple to move around. Does this make sense to everybody? So again, you would definitely want to go through all of this to actually be able to get your computer set up as best as you possibly can. There are canned workspaces that exist here in Capture One. To get to them, come over to the window menu and come down to Workspace. Now we're going to go ahead and save the workspace that we've done right now just so that you guys know that this thing exists. So I'm up in the window menu, I'm going to come down, and in Workspace I'm going to do Save Workspace, and I'm going to call this Versor. Now I want you guys to name yours whatever you want to name yours. Versor Tethered 2019. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. When you do that, and then come back up to the window again and come down to Workspace, you'll notice that it actually is sitting down here. Mine's sitting right here, this Versor Tethered 2019. There is a line, you guys won't have as many as I've got right here, but there's a line that defines, that makes a distinction between this and the series of canned workspaces. So the canned workspaces that sit up at the top, the default one is the one that we actually started with. A simplified one stays kind of the same, but it gets rid of some of these tool tabs up there. It doesn't really help us out a whole lot. The one that I use all the time, though, is this one, this Simplified Tethered Capture. If you get into a situation and you do not have time to build your own custom tethered captured workspace, this is a godsend. You simply go to it really quickly, and what will end up happening is that it will put your browser on the right-hand side. It will make your screen as big as your viewer, as big as it can possibly get. It gets rid of some of that other, like it gets rid of your metadata, it gets rid of your local adjustments, it gets rid of the lens correction. This is really the stuff that most people will use if they are setting up for a tethered capture session. And it's going to be where you spend 90% of your time in Capture One. In Capture One, 90% of what you're doing is capturing. As a digital tech, you're capturing. There are people who do spend a lot of time processing in here and doing color correction work, but this is the given. So it's just a quick one to get to. However, there's other things that exist in here. Back up to Window, down to Workspace. click on black and white editing. And what you'll notice is that it gives you a completely different series of tool tabs up here, but it gives you one that didn't exist in the default, and it's this guy right here. This is the black and white tool tab. And in the black and white tool tab, if you again are going to be shooting and the goal, the end game is black and white, most art directors want to see their previews and their shooting in black and white. To do that, you simply click on this Enable Black and White, and you can see that your image now turns black and white. Now, you'll notice that the only image that it did that on was the one that was highlighted. However, if we were shooting tethered, every single image that came in after that would inherit this black and white adjustment that's been enabled. Now, this has not thrown away your color information. Your color information is all still here. It's just giving you this preview in black and white. So for instance, you can uncheck this and actually get rid of it as well. However, if this seems like it's too much for you, and I think that this is too much, and you would prefer to work with your simplified tethered and simply add this black and white, you can do that as well. So to get to that, you would come up to the window, down to Workspace. Again, everybody do this with me. Select Simplified Tethered Capture. It changes the icons that you have up here at the top. Click on the space that's actually to the left of all, to the right of all the icons. Control click, come down. We are not adding tools, we are adding a tool tab. And the tool tab that you want to add on this is black and white. You have now got simplified tethered capture with black and white. And this again is where most people would actually work on this. It doesn't end here. You can actually add your own custom tool tab. To do that, come into the space again, all the way over to the right-hand side where it's somewhat empty here. Hold down the Control key, click on your drop-down menu, come down to Add Tool tab, and go down to the very bottom to say Custom Tool tab. And in the Custom Tool tab that comes up, you can give it its own name. I'm going to call mine Versors Tool tab. And say, before you hit add on this, click on this drop-down menu. You have a series of pre-canned icons that you can add to this. None of these really appeal to me a whole lot, so I'm just going to leave it at the number 1. But you can change this. What I'm trying to say to you is you can actually have up to, that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You can actually have 14 custom tool tabs. You don't only need to pick one. You can do one for each one of these icons, and so you can have a huge number of these guys. But I'm going to go ahead and leave mine at number 1, and I'm going to click on there to add tool tab. This, to me, would be the place to actually add Capture Pilot. Again, it's a very rarely used thing, but if I want to get to it really quickly, this would just be the easy place to get to it. So to do that, hold down the Control key, clicking in this blank space. You have no tools in this right now. Click on the space, do Add Tool, and we are going to add Capture Pilot. And here we are. So this is now ready to go. So this would be my simplified workspace that would actually also give me black and white and also allow me to do Capture Pilot. Are we good on this? All right. So we saved that workspace. You remember we saved that guy? And it took us hours and hours to build it. And since it took us hours and hours to build it, I don't want to ever have to build it again. So much like you can actually save and move workspaces around in Photoshop, you can do the same thing for Capture One, and we need to go look at that right now. So I need everybody to go back out to the Finder. When you get out to the Finder and you click on your Go menu, now on some of you guys, if you've actually got this, how many people here have actually got a link to their user library? Okay. Yeah, okay, not many of you. There are 2 libraries that exist in the Macintosh world. There's actually 3 that exist, and I'm going to show you mine right now. You may not be able to get to yours depending on the machines that you're working on because they don't let you get to the Macintosh HD, to your boot drive. However, if you can just open a window in your Finder, so if you're at the Finder right now, let me close all my windows and hide everybody else so might look like your screen. If it looks like this to you right now, again, if you just hit Command N, it will bring up a new screen. In that new screen, I typically click on the, it's sort of the tree view icon. I don't really like icons itself. I don't like the list view. I do this guy over. This is the one that I use. Because then when I click on a folder, or if I actually get to a folder, so if I click on a folder, it'll actually take me over to the next folder. I just keep going over across as I sort of dig deeper into the tree of wherever I'm at. So if you get your screen set up like this, and you come down here to the bottom and you click, or not to the bottom, but under devices, if you see them, for those of you who are on your own computers, do you have Macintosh HD? Do you get to Macintosh HD? Mine's called Boot. But do you guys have Macintosh HD? Anyone? Again, the school computers won't have them, but anybody else? If you click on that, you'll actually see right here there is a folder called Library. This is a library that is universal for every user in your computer. It is not your user library. So all the custom stuff that you make for Capture One is not in this library. This is not where it is. If you click on the System folder, there is another library in here. This is also not where you keep anything for Phase One. None of those things contain stuff that you really should be screwing around with. Your own personal library, though, should fall under your home. If you click on your home, it, in most cases, is not there. So if you guys click on your home, your name, do you see library under this one? You do? Because most of you shouldn't. Who does and who doesn't? Yeah, well, you know how you got yours. So if anybody's never found their library before, do you have it? So again, in your user folder, not in Macintosh HD, but in your user folder. So at any rate, most people don't have it. By default, it is turned off. You can't get to it because Apple turns it off. To actually get to it, you come up to your Go menu and click on the Go, and you will also notice it doesn't sit here in this drop-down menu. Depending on the system software you're using, and this is, I can't believe Apple has done this. Every system of OS X until version 10.10, to get to the library, you would hold down the Option key. If you hold down the Option key now, nothing happens. You have to hold down the Shift key. If you hold down the Shift key, you actually get the library. So for version 10.11, 10.12, and 10.13, you hold down the Shift key to get this. For 10.14, they've gone back to the Option key. Great. So at any rate, it's either the Option key or the Shift key. I can't tell you which one yours is because they're fucking changing them all the time. But anyway, you want to hold down whatever of those two keys will actually give you the library. In my case, it's the Shift key. Once you get the library, you want to click on it. And when you click on it, it will actually open up a window that is your library. And you can see it right here. If you look at the very top of my window right here, it says Library. To keep that always visible to you so that you can get to it easily and you don't have to remember the Shift Go-To trick, simply grab your library icon. You want to grab this little bitty icon and drag it over here into your favorites under this window and let go. The library will stay there forevermore, and every new window that you click to open up whatever, there will always be a library there that you can click on. So has everybody got to their library yet? Are we good? Inside the library, there is a folder called Application Support. Click on that. Inside the Application Support, there's a folder called Capture One. Inside that is a whole series of application supports. This is where everything that you save in Capture One is kept. So if you want to save a custom workspace, it's put in here. If you want to save custom recipes for how you print your files out, they're also saved in here. Templates are saved in here. Everything that you can save is all saved in here. Most digital techs that I know trick out their systems the way they want them, then they copy this entire folder to a jump drive that they carry with them at all times. Because if you then have got this on a jump drive, you can go to any other computer in the world, plug your USB drive in, copy this folder, to this very same location on the computer that you are working on, and all of your custom stuff will be there for you. So if you come down to the very bottom of that Capture One folder and click on Workspaces, inside of that you should see the workspace that we just built and saved. If you copy that to your hard drive right now, you can go to any other computer, and if you put that workspace right back in that same folder, your custom-built workspace will be available to you, and you don't have to build it again. This is like a huge time saver. So my suggestion is spend the rest of this semester tricking your system out as best you can in this class, and then finally do a grab this. Or if you know you're going to lose it or not be able to work on your computer, grab it when you know that it's as tricked out as you can possibly get it. But we've got a long way to go to trick these things out. Are there questions about this? Are we good?
So do you do that every time you go to a shoot?
I've got all of this on a hard drive, and I just go in and plug it right in. What you should also know about this too, though, is that I don't replace this folder. I don't go in and like just wholesale replace the Capture One folder, because the computer that I'm actually working on may be somebody else's computer where they've done a lot of this stuff. And if I overwrite their entire folder, then I'm throwing away all their custom work. So I don't do that. What I do is I add the things that I need to add. And for me, it's usually a custom workspace like this, and it's usually a series of custom recipes for how I have stuff printed out or how I'm processing files. So that's kind of where most of my stuff is at. So anyway, just so that you know that. But the other thing that I will say to you is that at the end of your day, if you're not going to be working ever on that machine again, so for instance, if you're just at a studio for one day and you're not going to be there again, go back in and grab your stuff and get it out of there. Don't litter, for lack of a better way of putting it. You know what I mean? It's just, you don't, unless somebody goes, oh my God, I love that workspace, how did you set that up? Then you could say, oh, okay, well, I do this, blah, blah, blah. Here, you keep mine, which is great. But otherwise, don't leave your junk behind. Okay. So anyway, I just want to know everybody that was there. We're going to come back to this folder again in just a little bit. So all right, back into Capture One quickly. Now we're going to sort of start more in the more meat and potato part of all of this. So I need everybody to go back to their Library Tool tab. Again, it's the one that looks like the little folder that's all the way on the end of this. And we need to talk about sessions and building sessions and what that actually means. So in Capture One, there are two ways that you can work with files. One way is working with them as sessions, and the other is working with them as catalogs. So I know when Corey was actually building his, did Corey go back to his regular machine? Is your other machine working?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Right onto the
Oh, okay. So Corey, what number is yours? Because I may have sent your number to somebody that isn't. What number is yours? 17. I didn't send it to him, so don't worry about it. You're good. But when Corey did his first started up, and it happened to a couple other people, it said, do you want to continue with sessions or do you want to continue with a catalog? So there's two different ways that you can work in Capture One. How many people in this room have never don't work in Lightroom? Have never worked in Lightroom? You've all pretty much worked in Lightroom, right? So what Lightroom is it's a cataloging program. And what it does is, by and large, it is one single file. Actually, it's a couple of files that are in one folder, but it functions as one single place, and every single thing you shoot goes into that catalog. So that catalog, as time goes on, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and all your shooting goes into it. And the way you can manage your files in there is that it's an incredible database. So you can search by dates, you can search by camera serial numbers, you can search by keywords, you can search by, you can do all of that kind of stuff. And for a lot of fine art photographers, that's a really great thing to have. It's a great structure to have. Because let's say you're a fine art photographer and you're really into shooting flowers. That's your thing. But you also shoot trees. And you also shoot, you're into shooting like living things, okay? But you're smart enough during the course of your doing all of that is that you will list the flowers as flowers and the trees get keyworded as trees, and you might even go deeper and that all the roses are tagged as roses and all the tulips are tagged as tulips, and you've done all that kind of stuff. You shoot for 25 years and you've been religious about doing this. Inside a single catalog structure like that, you can actually do a launch and search for all the roses you've ever shot. And it will show you all the roses over your entire 25 career that you have shot, 25-year career. And that can be an extraordinary thing. In a commercial world, the world that I work in, it doesn't really work that way at all. The exact opposite happens for me. So in my world, I don't want to mix up the stuff that I shoot for Neiman Marcus with the stuff that I shoot for Lord & Taylor. I want those things completely separate from one another. I don't want this gigantic catalog that has actually got that's got everything I do in it. So both of those options exist in Capture One. And it's not that one is necessarily more correct than the other. You need to know how to do both. The majority of the studios that I work in, I would say that 99.9% of them, everybody works in sessions. They don't work in this giant catalog metaphor because, again, it doesn't apply. Imagine you're a digital tech. You come to work for me today, then you go to work for Jimmy tomorrow. You can't put all of our work together in one single catalog. That wouldn't make any sense. My work wouldn't apply to him, and I don't want his work. It just doesn't make any sense. So the session thing allows you to keep this separate. However, there are people who will do hybrid work. And what hybrid work means is that they will actually shoot everything to session, but then they will take all of their session collection and they will import it into a giant catalog so that they can use the database searching part of the catalog to find stuff that spans 25 years career, but they can send stuff out to people that is based on a specific single job. Does that sort of make sense? Are there questions about this? So in our case, we're going to start with sessions. We will do a catalog here, but we're going to start with sessions first. So to do that, there's a couple of ways to create a new session. The first way, and the way most people do it, is to click on the little plus that's sitting right here. So if you look at the very top of your library screen right here, there's a little plus icon. If you click on the lower right-hand corner of that, you'll see there's a drop-down menu that comes out, and when it kicks out, it says either new session or new catalog, and I want you to click on new session. And a window will actually open up, and in this window that opens up, we can actually name our session and we can sort of move on from here. However, there is a problem in this, and the problem in this is going to be where we actually save this session. So I'm going to cancel out of mine really quickly just for 1 second, and I need to show you guys something. This is a little bit confusing, but this is a game changer for you, especially, again, this is where we begin to separate the people that think they know Capture One from the people who really do know Capture One. And so it's this. I need everybody to come out to their Finder. And again, simply hit that Command N to bring up just a new Finder window. Again, I've got the, this is the icon that I've got to give me this, because I like to see my displays over here. And as you look under your favorites, or you simply look down through here, how many people actually see a shared folder? None of you, right? So here's the deal. The shared folder is not something that you create directly. It's something that is created as a consequence of how you set up your computer. And what I mean by that is if you come up to your Apple folder, click on this, come down to System Preferences, it'll actually open up. Now again, I don't think you have access to this on the Digital Lab computers. You might, but I don't think you do. Everybody who is on a laptop will have access to this. Click on this to get system preferences when they come up. Down here under users and groups, you want to click on this. It'll actually open up a window. You need an administrative password to unlock this guy. And the password that you use to unlock is exactly the password you use to log in with. So if all of you guys have a password that when you turn on your computer and you type in your little your 4-digit password, whatever, that's what it's asking for right here. You need to unlock your password. Again, you get this thing calling for it, so I'm going to put mine in and unlock this. What this now will allow me to do is to create an additional user. What users are is, this is what happens in a Macintosh world. It's one of the strengths of Macintosh. Windows has adopted a version of it, but it's not as strong as Macintosh is. What ends up happening is that you guys do a lot of stuff on your computer that's actually very dangerous, like email. Now, everybody does email, so I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't be doing email, but there are problems that can exist with that. There are things that can happen in your email that actually compromise your computer and how your computer works. It doesn't just end at that. There are attachments that you can actually download that will infect your computer. But there's more that can happen. There are incompatibilities between programs. There can be one program that's nobody's fault, but it's just one program is very hostile to another program. So some of you may have actually had this happen. You'll have you'll be working in Photoshop. You'll have a browser open. You'll have your email open, whatever, and all of a sudden Photoshop starts acting really wonky. It starts getting really slow. Or all of a sudden a brush doesn't act like a brush, it acts like an eraser or something like that. It's because it can be. It doesn't have to be, but it can be because programs are complicating other programs. There's an interaction with the programs that is not necessarily friendly. All of that can actually end up happening. It is the last thing in the world that you want to have happen when you're actually doing a session. Imagine you're the DigitalTech on a shooting that's running $150,000 a day. You really want to be in as safe an environment as you can possibly get. So to do that, you build a separate user. And what happens in the separate user, you'll see I've actually got 3 other users in mind. I've got Verser, which is my normal computer. This is what I turn on. This is what I use to lecture to you guys with. It's what I get my email on. It's where I go online. It's where I do all of that kind of stuff. But if you look at my desktop, you will actually see it's covered in files. It's got a lot of stuff going here. I've got emails that's like hundreds of gigabytes deep. I've got a huge number of programs here. Some of them are not necessarily blessed by Apple. Some of them I've done some wonky stuff on using Terminal, whatever. So it's just it's a more dangerous environment than I would want to actually be working on a shooting that was really, really, really important to me. So to change that, or to give me the option to not have to work in that environment, again, up to system preferences, you go into this users group, you click on this to create a new user. And in the new user, I actually will change this account from standard to administrator so that it has all the permissions to actually run this machine, to do things on this machine. I call mine Capture One. In the account name, it'll see, I've already made one of these right now, so I'm going to call this Capture One. This will be funny. Capture One 2. Bad joke. You guys, I'm not going to actually save this thing, but I'm just showing you guys. This is because I've already built one of these for me. The account name will actually just be a truncated version of this. You would put in a password, so I'm going to put in my password. It's going to ask you to verify that password, so you put it in again. And then it's going to ask you to put in a hint right here, and I'm going to call mine Love. I have no idea why, because it has nothing to do with my password. But anyway, that's just what it is. And then I would click on Create User. Now, I'm not going to actually do that, because I've already got the one that I need done, but this is what you guys would actually do. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this, and you'll see that in my case, if we just did the Capture One, whatever, this would be the one that I would actually have right here. So I am going to actually log out of my current setup right now and show you guys what this looks like, and then I'm going to come back to it. So when I come back to my regular one, will somebody remind me that I've got to start another recording? Because when I log out right now, it's going to get rid of all the program stuff that I've actually got going. Makes sense? You're also going to lose this on the video, so that's why you guys show up here to class. So I'm going to say, okay, this is all done. I'm going to lock it up again. I'm going to close this guy up again to actually log out of the program of the user that I'm in right now, because you can see the user that I'm in right now, I logged in as Verser. If you come down here and you say in your Apple menu, you want to log out as Verser Engelhard, bless you, and I'm going to say log out. And it will quit if it needs to. If I need to save anything, it's going to offer to save me something. It's saying right here that my recording program is active, and it's going to say